This is an extremely important video where I'm going to show you how to use our two special right triangles to find exact trigonometric values. We're going to use our two special right triangles to determine the value of our six trigonometric functions for theta equals 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and 60 degrees. Now, please note that these will be exact values. Your calculator provides only approximate or rounded values, but these will give us the exact values. I use this technique forever for finding exact trigonometric values. So let's start with 30 degrees. I'm going to draw an angle at 30 degrees. And create a right triangle by dropping the perpendicular down to the x-axis. Remember that the short side is across from the 30-degree angle and the long side is across from the 60-degree angle. And our generic ratios in a 30, 60, 90 triangle is that the short side is equal to x. The long side is x times the square root of 3, and the hypotenuse is 2x. So let's write out our trig functions. Sine of 30 degrees, that's going to be our opposite side divided by our hypotenuse, which will be x divided by 2x, and then we can simplify these x's, and that leaves us with 1/2. Cosine of 30 degrees, well, that's going to be our adjacent side divided by our hypotenuse. From the 30 degree, right, x square root of 3 is our adjacent side, and 2x is our hypotenuse. Once again, we'll simplify, and these x's cancel out, leaving us with square root of 3 over 2. And then we have tangent of 30 degrees. It's going to be our opposite side divided by our adjacent side. Our opposite side is x, while our adjacent side is x square root of 3. Once again, we'll simplify by canceling out these x's. That leaves us with 1 over the square root of 3, and then we'll rationalize. And we end up with square root of 3 over 3. To get our other three trig functions, we know they're just the reciprocal. So cosecant of 30 degrees will be the reciprocal of 1/2, which is 2. Secant of 30 degrees, that'll be the reciprocal of square root of 3 over 2, so that's going to be 2 over square root of 3, and we'll rationalize. That gives us 2 square root of 3 over 3. And then lastly, cotangent of 30 degrees, that'll be the reciprocal of tangent. But remember, if we've rationalized, we want to flip the number we had before we rationalized. So we'll do the reciprocal of that 1 over square root of 3, which gives us square root of 3. So I'm going to fill in this table with our 6 trigonometric values when theta is equal to 30 degrees. So sine is 1/2, Cosine is square root of 3 over 2. Tangent is square root of 3 over 3. Cosecant is 2. Secant is 2 square root of 3 over 3. And cotangent is square root of 3. We'll do the same type of process this time for theta equals 45 degrees. So drawing my diagram this time with my angle at 45 degrees. And then dropping our perpendicular down to the x-axis, creating a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Our generic sides for a 45, 45, 90 triangle is at the two sides are x. Remember, they're both the same. And our hypotenuse will be x times the square root of 2. And we'll do the same thing we did before with our 6 trig functions. So sine of 45 degrees. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Right? X is going to be our opposite side. So that's going to be x over x square root of 2. The x's are going to cancel out, leaving us with 1 over the square root of 2. And then we'll rationalize this. We end up with a square root of 2 over 2. Cosine of 45 degrees, that's our adjacent side over our hypotenuse. Again, that's going to be x over x square root of 2. The x's cancel out, leaving us with 1 over square root of 2. And we'll rationalize it, giving us square root of 2 over 2. Tangent of 45 degrees, that's our opposite side over our adjacent side. Opposite side is x, adjacent side is also x. This simplifies to be 1. Now that we have the main 3, we can get the others by doing the reciprocal. So cosecant of 45 degrees is the reciprocal of sine, but as always, since I rationalized it, I want to do the reciprocal of the number we had before we rationalized. So I'll do the reciprocal of 1 over square root of 2 and get square root of 2. Same thing happening here for secant. Secant is going to be the reciprocal of cosine. And again, we're going to have a square root of 2. And lastly, cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. The reciprocal of 1 is 1. Those are our exact values for our 6 trig functions at 45 degrees. And I'm going to fill them in on the table. Square root of 2 over 2 for both sine and cosine. Tangent is 1. Secant and cosecant, both square root of 2 over 2. And cotangent also 1. One more to do, this time when theta is equal to 60 degrees. So we Draw in our angle 60 degrees. Drop a perpendicular down to the x-axis, creating this 30, 60, 90 triangle. Remember that the short side is always across from the 30-degree angle, and we label the short side in our special right triangle here x. The long side, which is across from the 60-degree angle, is going to be x times the square root of 3, and our hypotenuse is 2x. Starting with sine of 60 degrees. It's our opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. And our opposite side this time is x times the square root of 3 divided by our hypotenuse, x over 2. We simplify by canceling out these x's, and we'll be left with square root of 3 over 2. Cosine of 60 degrees, that's our adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. It's going to be x divided by 2x. X's simplify out, and we're left with 1/2. Tangent of 60 degrees, that's our opposite side divided by our adjacent side. So that'll be x times the square root of 3 over x. Our x's cancel out again, and we're left with the square root of 3. I find it so amazing that we get these actual exact numbers based off of general ratios. Math is so amazing. All right, now that we have these three, let's get the reciprocals. So cosecant of 60 degrees is going to be the reciprocal of square root of 3 over 2. So that's 2 over square root of 3, which we will rationalize. We get 2 square root of 3 over 3. Secant of 60 degrees, that'll be the reciprocal of 1/2, which is 2. And lastly, cotangent of 60 degrees, that'll be the reciprocal of square root of 3, 1 over square root of 3, which will then rationalize. And we get square root of 3 over 3. And let's fill in our table. Sine of 60 degrees, that's square root of 3 over 2. Cosine of 60 is 1/2. Tangent of 60, square root of 3. Cosecant of 60, that was 2 square root of 3 over 3 when we rationalized. Secant of 60 degrees is 2. And then lastly, cotangent of 60 degrees was square root of 3 over 3. It's critical that you are able to find exact trig values. It kind of becomes like knowing your multiplication facts, that we're going to need to be able to pull these numbers, especially for sine and cosine. I don't have the rest of them really memorized. Maybe some of tangents, but sine and cosine for sure. You're really going to want to be able to know those numbers quickly like you do your multiplication facts. And rather than just memorizing a massive chart, I truly believe it's easier to understand and retain the information long term by using these special right triangles. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you will see me using this technique throughout the course for finding exact trigonometric values.